Welcome to In Layers, where we explore the people and technology behind artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Ron Green. Today, we're going to discuss a topic close to my heart. Is programming dead? Over the past year, AI coding tools have crossed an important threshold. They've moved from advanced autocomplete to systems that can design, write, refactor entire chunks of software when prompted in plain English. For many engineers, the day-to-day experience of writing code already feels fundamentally different, even more than it did 12 months ago. That shift raises some uncomfortable questions. Are we watching the early stages of AI replace programmers outright? Or is this simply the next stage of tooling transition, when it changes how software is built while keeping humans firmly in the loop? If programming becomes more about intent, architecture, and review than syntax, what skills actually matter going forward? And how much further can these systems realistically go? In this episode, we're going to take a look at all of those questions seriously, and we'll talk about what has actually changed, what has not, and where the hype is justified and where it is clearly not. And we will also look at how the role of programmer is evolving and what this means for people entering the field today. As always, I'm joined by two of the sharpest minds in the industry, my co-founder and distinguished machine learning engineer, Dr. Si, and our vice president of engineering, Michael Wharton. All right, guys, I'm really excited about this conversation because we've had this on our list for a while to talk about this. And I'm actually kind of glad that it just kept getting bumped because there have been some enormous changes in the last 3 or 4 months.
Absolutely.
Specifically, I'm thinking about Opus 4.5, which came out from Anthropic. That model was released, late November?
Yeah, around that.
Around that time frame. And, it takes, these models are not easy to evaluate anymore. It takes a bit, but I would say really by mid-December, late December, we were all pretty excited about what we were seeing from Opus 4.5 and its ability to take us from maybe the vibe coding era where you would say, I want you to help me finish this code I'm writing, and it's making sophisticated autocomplete decisions, to more task-driven completion, but where you really had to check it and it was maybe 80% hit or miss, to I'm increasingly seeing I can give it high-level objectives and it will almost always successfully complete them in the first go. So right off the bat, I want to ask you about your experiences with 4.5, which is funny. It's 3-4 months old, and that's already been replaced by 4.6. That's how fast things are changing. But Opus, let me throw this to you first, ZZ. How has it changed your day-to-day? Like, are you feeling the same difference that I'm feeling in the quality of its code generation?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I'm a kind of an early adopter and kind of on the end of a spectrum where where I began to use Cloud Code when it's still Opus 4, and also when Codex from OpenAI just came out. And I would say over time the quality has improved a lot. And I would say Opus 4.5 is a step change in terms of the quality and also speed, and the accuracy of the code just came up a lot. So I've used it to automate more and more of my workflow, from in the beginning of simpler code completing this line to help me write this unit test, to right now it's sometimes whole application, like a simple web app, or a machine learning pipeline that automatically kind of try to come up with the first solution to this Kaggle problem. Yeah, this is quite impressive.
And are you from a success perspective? So if you give it an assignment, you say add this capability or maybe try to fix some bug, how often in today do you see it fail?
That's a great question. It really depends on what type of things you do. I'll give you one example. I did this around last October, end of October, where I try to automate, a simple kind of Kaggle competition. Come up with this model training pipeline that takes in text data and try to classify. Given this excerpt, which of the three authors do you think wrote this text? And that for that task, I was able to just without intervention, I just write a simple spec. Like, hey, here are common machine learning steps that you need to do. You need to split the data to train validation. Here are some common text features, and blah blah blah. So a spec, and then just have the coding agents generate code and also train models over time. It's time consuming because of the training loop. It takes long, right?
Right.
And it ran for, I don't know, half a day to a day, depending on which coding agents I did. And I compared the few solutions there, including Cloud Code and Codex, and also the Composer from Cursor. And the quality, it blows my mind. I mean, it easily exceeds the median accuracy of human participants of Kaggle. And,
I agree.
And people who participate in Kaggle, they're already self-selected, and people who work in machine learning. It didn't quite reach the top 10% or 5% yet, but I mean that's hard to reach. And to kind of compare with myself, I also tackled it kind of manually, and it took me kind of couple of days on and off to achieve that accuracy.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, so you run an entire engineering team, and all you do is work, building AI solutions day and night. Has this tool yet, has the really the quantum leap in performance in AI coding assistance affected your project timelines yet, or the amount of work that you think can be completed in any given sprint, or is it still, you're just still absorbing the capabilities?
I think it's probably the latter. I mean, when you think about the parts of the development workflow that are strictly related to software engineering, those are leaps and bounds faster than they would have been otherwise. But in reality, the world's just a messy place. There's a lot of stuff to happen, which is like requirements development, system architecture decisions, a lot of planning that happens before you even submit that first prompt. I'm starting to think that, yeah, these tools have almost like sped out ahead of us, and we haven't caught up to exactly where they are. There's a layer of abstraction between coding agents and how we interact with them that is evolving rapidly right now. There's so many different workflows, prompting techniques. There are paradigms like spec-driven development that people are starting to play with, which I think, to your point earlier, Ron, that can really help close that gap between product owners and managers and developers themselves, and really like tighten that iteration cycle time. But at the moment, I feel like it's so incredibly immature. It's almost like the work is now on us to figure out how to interface with these tools, rather than some quantum leap of model performance that's going to change the game.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
I completely agree. I'm a technologist, and so this hurts me a little bit to say, but I've always kind of seen that any product I've ever developed, or any product company that I've started that didn't succeed, it was never the technology. It was always product market fit, right? It wasn't the technology. We were always able to build what we could imagine. I wonder if we're entering a phase where product managers and being able to know what you want to build is going to become the most important part of technology, because we've got this new leverage. We've got this ability to build anything we want. Now we have to figure out what we want to build. We're no longer
the
constrained.
question's the important thing now, not the methodology for building it in the first place.
Exactly. So, okay, we're kind of dancing around the question for today, which is, is programming dead, right? And by that I mean, are we in a world where, if you were giving advice to young people, would you tell them, don't go into software, don't go get a computer science degree, you will not be employed? And so I want to hear what both of you think about this. Michael first, do you think that that's an exaggeration, or that's an exaggeration just for now?
I think it's an exaggeration for now. I mean, I always feel like it's a tough question. So we were in a boardroom talking to one of our clients recently, and they asked me, it's like, okay, My kid's going to college. Should he become a programmer? What should he do? What just give me some advice here. I was like, honestly, there's just a lot of I don't know if there's any one correct answer. But there are two answers I gave him. One is that I think domain expertise is invaluable regardless of what you're doing. So even if you have someone go in, learn computer science, I think that's still important, but it needs to be paired with some sort of domain expertise, whether that's, in my case, it's aerospace. ZZ, I know you've got a lot of deep expertise in computer vision specifically and other fields, Ron, genetic algorithms, and everyone has their own domain expertise, but programming alone as a skill is not sufficient. And the other thing I think that's really important, more so now than ever, it's an idea I stole from Andrew Yang in a Substack post that he published, I think, late last year. And the sense is that success is almost predetermined by personality traits rather than some particular set of skills. So it's almost like a conscientiousness or like like your willingness to adopt new workflows and adapt really quickly is the most important skill set that you can have.
Yeah.
And it's really in short supply in the industry from my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. ZZ, what do you think? Is programming dead now, or will it be dead soon? Or do you think no? This is just another generation of tools. It's another advancement, but there will always be a need for human developers.
My personal belief is that it's far from being dead, and on the contrary, it's gonna maybe experience one of the best time in history for getting into programming. So that my reason, but of course, fast forward 10 years, looking back, are our predictions correct? That it's always hard to say given how fast paced the development are in AI. But here's why I think this way. If you think of programming narrowly as writing code as to like Python, C++, these are tasks, and these tasks can be largely automated. But I'm quoting Jensen Huang's words recently. There are tasks and there are purposes. Software engineering and programming is more than writing code using specific language. As engineers and as you become more senior, you need to think more and more about architecture, systems, machines, your customers. It's a whole collection of things that you need to balance about and decide against. So, and also to our point, Ron, like deciding what features to build, deciding what product shape should be. That's even more important.
Yeah.
So, programming is much more than generating or writing code, and in that sense, I think I think it's far from dead.
Okay, that I like that. I mean, I may even believe it because it's such a nice thought. I've always believed that programming is a means to an end, meaning you're not writing the code to write the code. You're writing the code to accomplish some task, to build some capability. And we've seen throughout the history of the software industry, we move up in levels of abstraction, right? Originally it was machine code, then it was assembly, then it was high order languages. And for decades, we've been stuck at this sort of high order language level. And now we have perhaps the most powerful level of abstraction, period, which is we can express just in plain English we want and build entire applications, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I really genuinely think we could see both of these paths come true. I'm not trying to dodge the question, but it seems to me that software and programming is both dead or dying in the sense that the need to understand and write the code, I truly think will diminish just the way it did with assembly language and just the way it did with machine code. But at the same time, it may allow us to move more quickly, and there will be an increasing return, the leverage that people who know how to use these skills and know what they want and know how to drive and prompt and direct these systems will be the most valuable. And this is a perfect segue for, the junior developer problem. Okay, let's say software programming is not dead. I'm seeing an increasingly lack of appetite for companies to hire young, out of college talent.
It's a big problem, yeah.
It's a really big problem because let me ask you this: I feel like senior developers, people with a lot of experience, get the most out of these coding agents. Are you seeing the same thing, or are you seeing something different?
1,000%. I think that not only is this AI coding agent kind of, I guess, revolution, it's amplifying the abilities of these expert developers. People have been doing it for years and years, but it's also amplifying flaws at the bottom end. So you can do a whole lot of damage if you are a junior developer. And I think that, to your earlier point, it is really short-sighted for a lot of organizations to look at that imbalance and be like, oh, okay, maybe we just only need experts and we can like really get a lot more out of them exclusively. But the problem is, if you're not building that pipeline to constantly create experts in the first place, then it's a ticking time bomb. And, I think that prematurely devaluing mentorship and stewardship of younger developers is one of the biggest mistakes we could make as an industry right now.
Yeah. The dystopian scenario is we flash forward a few decades and we don't even understand how the software works anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so all right. I'm going to pause 1 second, guys. I want to look at my notes. How are we doing on time? I know we had to stop there.
It's about 15 minutes.
Okay. So I want to go about another 10, 15 max. I want to keep these tight. So I'm going to I'm going to just make a couple of comments, and then I'm going to ask you guys some questions, if that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That's great.
Okay. I read a quote the other day that I thought was amazing. It said, software ate the world. And this was a quote that I think that came out about 15 years ago, that software is eating the world. And by that, it meant that there's nothing, there's no part of our society or culture that's not being impacted by software and either being improved or automated. And the new quote is, software ate the world, and AI is eating software now, right? Yeah. And so from an ego perspective, does that hurt? Like as somebody who spent decades, mastering this skill is easy. How does it make you feel?
Oh, definitely ouch for me. But I think it's not the first time, we collectively has an ego hit. When Deep Blue, the Deep Blue moment for chess, and then, I never thought Go, the game of Go, we will lose to computers, and that happened.
Yeah.
Right. And then, the more recent example that I just mentioned, automating training the model, it did a pretty good job that, I have to try hard at it to level myself up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely.
It's crazy to think that it's very, very possible that the first job that ever got fully automated was the programming job. We worked ourselves out of a job. I mean, it's just nuts. Okay, so I've got a couple of hard questions for you guys. Number one, let's start a little bit easier. So ZZ, and this is especially for you, describe a moment, like a surprising before-after moment that changed your workflow in the last 6 to 12 months. We talked about Opus 4.5, but like, what's changed? Like, what did you stop doing? What are the types of things that you just simply don't do anymore, if there are any? And what did you start doing now with these new capabilities?
That's a great question. I'm thinking because there are so many of them now. So before, I wouldn't think of myself like trying to build a browser or trying to build, a video editor app, which I'm now doing as a hobby projects now. Before coding agents, I mentioned myself, I have to, take courses, maybe read books and read other people's, thousands of lines of code to understand, how Electron works, how do you build and how do, video editor timeline work, But now with coding agents being, they already have a lot of knowledge that's built in. They also can read very fast, much faster than me. It's able to generate boilerplate code, which, I guess a couple months ago when I tried it didn't work super well. It's a sort of working app. It's a working browser, but with a lot of messy UIs and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's much better now.
Yeah.
And it will keep getting better. But, I can interact with coding agents. First, let it ask me questions about, hey, what's important about the UI, and then being able to kind of connect to MCPs and, let it inspect, take a screenshot and inspect what's happening, and then, just keep feeding information to the coding agents about how the app is doing, what needs to be improved, and that, just seeing the app getting better and better without me looking at the code, even 1% of the code that it generates.
It's astounding.
Yeah, it's really blows my mind.
I had a moment a couple weekends ago. I was working on a user interface for a client project, and as I clicked across some of the elements, it would flash white. The screen would refresh and would kind of flash white really quickly. And I wanted to see how little guidance I could give the model. And I literally said, this was cursor. I just said, when I click sometimes it flashes white, fix that. And it didn't take long. I think it thought for about a minute. It identified it had some property that wasn't being set. It was being set to null, and it fixed it. And I mean, I literally had to take a moment. I stood up with my coffee and just paused, just mind blown that we're in this world with just almost no guidance. Something flashing white. I didn't even say what I was doing, and it could very quickly get to the bottom of that. I mean, we're just in an entirely new world.
Yeah.
It's astounding. Okay, I'm going to pause there again for break. Michael, do you want to answer that question, or you want me to go to a different question? The one around before after.
I could, but if you're compressed for time, you want to just go to the next one.
No. Do you want to answer it? I'd love to.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, Michael, how about you? How's your, in the last 6 months, the before after? What are the things that you stopped doing, and what are things that you're doing now that you weren't doing before?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of old and good habits, or at least that would have been good habits as, a software engineer pre-coding agents. And even there have been like multiple steps along the way. Like autocomplete was the real big boon to begin with like delegating at least some of our work to these coding agents. And even that, I feel like I just mentally have to get my head out of that level of development and like bite-sized iteration and move up a layer of abstraction.
You need to stop yourself from thinking that way. And
I need to stop myself from like delegating such a small, trivial thing and think more at that feature level.
Feature level, spec level, yeah.
And even like with debugging, like you just mentioned, like I built this app recently where I was kind of frustrated with how much time I was spending throughout the week to try to just keep up with what was going on. And there's a clear context engineering problem of, what sources do you trust? What newsletters do you think are pretty, reliable at least? And I did a little bit of prompting there and built this thing out. And then just that like beautiful kind of like human machine melding of whenever there'd be a bug, because it wasn't just like a locally hosted application. There's like a custom domain with DNS records that I put together for a custom email server. I had some, it's all CDK based and AWS deployment with a Lambda that runs daily, and an event bridge schedule and everything. And along the way, even the parts of the integration that were kind of buggy in like outside of my local development environment, all I would do when something bad would happen, I was just like paste the error, put it in, say, hey, what's going on? Help me understand this.
Yeah.
And it's just, it honestly, like, dare I say, it was more fun than developing a year ago.
Oh man.
Like, I actually think we're in a better spot now as developers if you can just guide it in the right way.
I completely agree. I mean, I've been doing this for decades, and I completely agree. It's just more fun now. You are, it's so rare you get blocked in a way.
Yeah, how much more things you can do now in the same amount of time.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
ridiculous.
You know, something else that's crazy that feel like I've gotten over recently is, I used to do a lot of planning up front. It's common best practice now that the more upfront planning you do, the better the result probably is going to be if you can put that in just kind of like a single turn spec sheet. Um, but I'm noticing, like, even in domains, if I have like a harebrained idea of something that I want to do that's new, I don't even know where to start. Instead of going to the internet and doing this big research problem, I'll just be like, hey, Claude, ask me what you think is important
No.
to guide the design from the get-go. And even that is like a learning process
Mm.
and like a teaching moment to learn how to design something. And by the time we have the spec sheet put together at the end of it, it's just so fun.
I totally agree. And we were talking earlier about how it's going to become more and more important around knowing what you want and specifying what you want. But what I didn't say is that I'm increasingly using AI for that part of it too, right? Like, I have an idea. I think I want to build
Brainstorm.
this. Before I even go create the spec, interact with it and say, what am I missing? What gaps, what questions need to be answered? Any recommendations on how I can improve this? You have this whole iterative process with the agent before you even begin creating the spec. And, ultimate, recursion, it of course can create the spec if you do that part well, and you don't even have to do that part of the development.
Yeah.
Right? It's astounding. Okay. All right. I want to wrap up. I've got a couple more things. I want you both to go on the record. This is a falsifiable prediction.
Measures up.
We can look back in time. Have we hit peak computer science graduates? Let's say in the year 2030. So let's just go 2030, 2031, 5 years in the future. Are there the same number of computer science graduates, more or less?
Wow.
Michael, what do you think?
Oh, it's tough because I think the definition of computer science is going to be changing in that timeline
you're going to dodge the
dramatically.
question. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. If you want just like a really simple answer, assuming that computer science captures, the person who's in the driver's seat of development,
Yeah.
like that's the core skill set we're looking at, I think it's going to be dramatically more.
Dramatically more. Awesome. Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
ZZ.
I think it depends on whether computer science departments are going to open up courses for developing using AI, and assuming that's true, I think it's going to be more. And the reason is the paradox that Devon's paradox, I think, is that
Jevons paradox.
as the cost of development become lower, the total demand is going to increase.
Mhm.
And I think this may be the moment where the level of abstraction for human programmers increase again. And I think in history, maybe it happened once or twice, but I wish I can speak to this, but I don't have any experience of coding in assembly language aside from the, in college courses. But when compilers came out and people began to program in C and in Fortran and now in Python, etc., that's increase of level of abstraction allows you to do so much more. I cannot imagine writing assembly for a model training type.
I know.
Moving bytes.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah, you got to get on the record too, Ron.
I'm willing to do it. So, all
Don't
right,
cop out here.
You both think it'll increase. I genuinely think it's going to decrease, and they could. I'm saying what's defined as a computer science major right now. That's what I'm talking about. I could see colleges adapting and it becoming an AI engineer, certificate or something like that, and that's kind of moving the goalposts. But assuming, I'm just talking straight up, the computer science curriculum as it stands right now, I think we're probably hitting peak. And that's just my guess. And I think it will, those sets of skills will be displaced by new capabilities and new academic tracks in the future. And I think we've kind of hit peak. Okay. All right, guys, any final thoughts here on Is Programming Dead?
Don't forget to set a calendar invite for 2030 so we can check back in.
Okay, deal. All right, that was awesome. All right, guys, fantastic conversation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for listening to Hidden Layers. This series is hosted by Kung Fu AI, a management consulting and engineering firm focused exclusively on artificial intelligence. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's episode, or if you know someone we should feature, please visit us at kungfu.ai.